lights,
camera,
watch.
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm a doll, but I still wanna party. Pink felt like I'm ready to bend. I'm a 10, so I pull in a Ken. Like
Barbie.
Stacy, Nikki. All of the
So,
Barbies is pretty.
first off,
Barbies is bad. It girls. And we
I asked you what you thought of this movie, and you said I wouldn't tell you until we did this. So please tell me that you like this movie.
I like this movie. I thought in the beginning of the movie, I was not very sure where we're going. I was very lost in the beginning of the movie. I did not anticipate because there's so many like aspects of the movie that were going on. But the end, this like I think whether you call it Act 3 or whatever it is,
Yeah.
I think it was one of the best Act 3s that I've seen. I know there was so much going on and sometimes it doesn't work, but I think sometimes when it doesn't work, it does work because of all these elements going on, and you have to create a big message for people when they're watching a movie. You did not know what you're walking into.
Yeah.
I didn't. I thought I was walking into like an Anchorman movie, or I don't know, because who thought what this movie was going to be like?
Did you have any expectations going into it?
Zero expectations.
Okay.
I just knew that Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, two of the best actors we have in cinema, period, and they're going to be on the film together. When you saw the like TMZ photos of them in like Malibu in those outfits,
Yeah.
I thought like, is this going to be the movie that kind of torpedoes both of their careers? I'm not trying to not slander Greta and all of her work and her history and stuff like that, but usually in the past, like when you watch a Nolan movie, you know it's a Nolan movie. Like you categorize it like Jordan Peele is the new guy for horror. Greta has done different movies in her last 3 movies, and this is like
This was a completely different turn for
Yeah,
her.
you
Her
know,
last 2 movies have been very grounded.
you try to
in the
put
real
Barbie in a
world.
box, but you can't put Greta in a box. That's what I'll say.
100%. I want to start off this conversation by asking you about Greta Gerwig. Are you familiar with her movies?
I've only seen Little Women,
Okay.
and that was a great movie.
Yeah. So,
And she's only done 3 movies. I think 3 or 4. I'm not talking about the smaller parts. I'm like 3 full on.
3 single directed films. So
Yes.
there's a couple films that there's one film that she co-directed, and then there's a couple movies that she's like written and starred in, but the 3 solo write and directed movies, and that's Lady Bird, Little Women, and now Barbie. Greta Gerwig is my personal hero. I
Why?
love her. When I first started going to see movies, one of my best friends worked at a movie theater, and so from the ages of like 14 to 18, it didn't really matter what it was. We didn't watch a trailer. We just went to go see the movie.
Awesome.
So when I went to go see when I went to go see Lady Bird for the first time, it was just like, oh, I don't really know what this is. Let's go walk into it. That's what we did for every movie. Just blind watch. It was free. Sure, let's go grab a seat. It was the first time that I had seen a movie that was about women, that I found relatable on the screen,
Yes.
that I found everybody universally loved, and that I found lived past the time that it was just in the movie theater. And when I first walked into it, I was like, who is this person? I know nothing about her. What is this movie? Later, when Little Women came out, obviously Little Women has been adapted into so many times. It is a beloved novel. It is a beloved story. I went to go see Little Women with my mom. I then found out that Little Women was my mom's favorite book growing up. I knew nothing about the story of Little Women. We saw Little Women. I cried.
Yeah, I think everybody cried.
This is a masterpiece. This is the most beautiful thing. It then made me read the book Little Women. I would have never read the book Little Women if I hadn't seen Greta Gerwig's adaptation of Little Women. Later, this is not a directed by her film, but it was co-written by her, stars her, and is directed by her partner, Noah Baumbach, was Frances Ha. Frances Ha I saw at a time where I had just moved across the country. Moved away from all my friends, had a big change in my life. Everything had changed, which is exactly what Frances Ha was about. And it was the first time that I had seen a movie that was like truly relatable. I think the way that she is so deeply sincere and funny and honest in all of her films is incredible. And I don't think anybody is doing it the way that she's doing it. So in 2019, maybe more towards 2020, it was revealed that her next project was going to be Barbie.
Wow.
It was just like, I'm going to be writing a Barbie movie. And that was the only thing that was released. From that moment, since 2019, I was like, that is going to be the best movie ever made. I was not a Barbie girl growing up. I was not a doll girl, didn't play with dolls growing up.
Lego boy.
Lego girl! That's too funny. I was going to ask you if Barbie's played a big role in your household because you have a sister.
My sister, there was a point that she just never played but collected a bunch of Barbies.
Okay.
And there was a point in my life that we just collected a bunch of Legos because we lived in a small house and we could never really truly play it. But I'm certain that my sister has like a valuable collection of Barbies somewhere.
So for a lot of people, this was like, oh, it's a Barbie movie, like it's gonna hit that sentimental part of like Barbie is so important to so many people's childhood. For me, it was like, I do not give a shit about the Barbie aspect. It's the fact that Greta Gerwig is gonna make a movie about Barbies. It's like, I don't know what to expect, and that's gonna be the best thing about it. So I think, first of all, I loved this movie. Kicked it out of the park. This is incredible. The comedy, the story, the love, the tenderness. I also want to ask you about your movie-going experience, and number one, if you wore pink.
No, I did not wear pink.
The disgrace!
I went by myself, and I went to a pretty packed audience, and what was interesting, too, is a lot of people were very excited to, and rightfully so. This is like an event. This kind of reminds me, I don't know if you remember it, there was a moment in time where Pokemon Go came out, where everybody was out in the street playing Pokemon Go.
Definitely.
There was momentum being built up. There's a combination of Oppenheimer and just these t-shirts, Barbenheimer, everyone. We went in the movie, and you know how when you watch an AMC movie, there comes that moment where Nicole Kidman, has become so famous for just being that person for at the movies that you forget all the amazing words. And she says there was like this person behind us that was very obnoxious, yelling those lines. And the person next to me got up and said, like, you know, there's millions of people that are sitting here and whatever trying to watch it, like, it made it uncomfortable. I had the same experience when I watched Oppenheimer. There was this dude next to me that just made it uncomfortable, but that didn't take away from the brilliance that was displayed on the scene. I was just more lost in the beginning of the story because I was trying to figure it out. Like, what is this going to be like? Is this going to be like Grease? You know? I felt like this movie was kind of like a combination of Grease, Elf, Anchorman. Like, there was like a musical.
Wizard of Oz, Truman Show.
Very much.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Absolutely. Wizard of Oz, very much so, where it's kind of like at the end. But like, I had a great time experience, and I just think one thing that I told my coworker, I said, like, you should be very careful if you're going to take your daughters to this movie. Not that it's a bad movie. It's like, be prepared to have real life conversations.
My friend asked me if she could take her 6-year-old sister to see this movie, and I said, please take your 6-year-old sister to see this movie.
Well, at a certain age, a lot of things fly past them. But a high school girl, which one of the characters is a high school girl that, like, there's going to be a lot of questions asked. And I think...
No, high school, you're old enough to understand.
No, I understand. But, like, there might be questions for a junior high, or maybe you come from a very conservative family, or maybe don't have, like, an openness with your, you know, family members to talk about these things, you know? You think I grew up asking my dad, like, what reproduction is and, like, what my penis does? Specifically
for a lot of young people, definitely the last joke is something that has had to be explained, which I want to save for later. But, I saw this movie day before opening day.
Oh, wow.
I went with 14 people. Mm-hmm. We had a Barbie-themed pregame.
Bless your
first. Heart. When we walked up to the movie theater, we were all decked out in pink. I wore a pink cowboy hat and a t-shirt that said directed by Greta Gerwig in pink font, Barbie font. We walked past a restaurant where there were people outside dining, and a group of women also all dressed in pink said, "Hi, Barbie," to all of us. And then all of us were like, "Oh my God, hi, Barbie back." And then we kept walking, and someone on the staircase did it to us too. And then when we walked up the stairs to the front of the movie theater and we saw the sea of pink and everybody saying "Hi, Barbie" to each other, I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. Happening.
Yes.
And then where you said there was somebody in your theater obnoxiously screaming the Nicole Kidman thing, I'm personally one of those things when people applaud for the Nicole Kidman thing, I love it. I think love it's hilarious. When people applaud for Nicole Kidman. I have never, ever been in a movie theater where there were multiple groups of people standing up and saluting and were reciting the entire thing. Really? The last couple lines are like the ones that everyone knows, like somehow heartbreak feels good in a good place like this. The entire movie theater, Seb, I'm not kidding you, the entire movie theater screamed it and then applauded, and I was like, this is the best movie going experience of my entire life. So that just set the bar so ungodly believably high for me, for the hype, that I was like, this is exactly how I wanted to go in seeing this movie. And then the movie did not disappoint. Didn't disappoint. Incredible. From the moment of it starts with the Lizzo song.
Mm-hmm. Which is fantastic.
The soundtrack of this movie is incredible. Your girl has a song on it. Your girl Charlie XCX.
I love her. But Dua Lipa is I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name. I couldn't figure out which Barbie she was. I think
she's Mermaid Barbie.
She's Mermaid Barbie?
She's Mermaid. Well, not the John Cena Mermaid Barbie, but obviously regular.
Spoiler.
Regular. Well, this is a spoiler infused
but I'm just saying.
Conversation.
But no, like, I like when people are making things events as long as everybody's in on it.
Yeah.
And I don't think some people dude, be happy we're in the movies. Be happy that, this is the first time I experienced going to a movie that you had to wait to get inside. There was a line. And I love the fact that, if you go to Burbank AMC, like I saw someone put a purple and pink hat on the Batman that's there.
Incredible.
Ironically, what's it called? It's like Christopher. By the way, it's Christopher Nolan's birthday today.
Oh, really?
I forgot to say it on this. But like Christopher Nolan became super popular because of the Batman. But it's just very interesting. Like on his day,
I love that.
Barbie outshines, and I don't like that's I don't know. I think they both are happy with the numbers, but it's like. It's hard.
This is the biggest opening that's ever happened for like a period drama. Like
really?
This type of movie. Like Christopher Nolan broke records for that as well. Just like Barbie's doing its own insane numbers.
You can't compete.
Like, you can't
He's in a different atmosphere.
But his numbers for Oppenheimer are actually insane for how much money it has. It is blown out of the park. Like
for
out
men
of the
talking
water.
in the room. But back to the dolls.
No, literally. So just incredible. So the Lizzo song in the beginning where it's just like explaining everything that's going on stage or in the movie and it's in its perfect world, and then cut to Dua Lipa, cut to Do You Guys Ever Think About Dying, and then the Lizzo song again, but it's like now describing like the fucked up world. Like that was like.
You mean our real world?
Our real world. First of all, like the 2001 opening, straight into that, I was like, I have no fears. I have no idea where this is going, and I think it's going to be incredible.
She's a giant Kubrick fan. You know that, right?
Greta?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Stanley Kubrick. There's scenes in when they're in the office room where like it's all men. The lighting is Kubrick. Mm-hmm. They have The Shining. They bring up The Shining in the movie as well too. I forget what part.
Where?
I forget. But there's like a Shining moment too.
That doesn't surprise me. I mean, she's a film buff. She loves film. This movie is literally like references to everything. And
it's pop culture at its finest.
Pop at its finest. Though I want to talk just briefly negative to start, and then I have no other critiques of this film. I think the one thing that's holding it back is that it's an ad for Mattel.
You think so?
I don't think it's holding back the movie as the movie, but I do think the fact that now all the Mattel stuff has been launched after, and I feel like there's been a lot of backlash of like, I can't fully love this movie because it's just like corporate sponsorship, yay. I want to know if you had any opinions about that, if that bothered your viewing experience at all.
No, because it also talked to me about the stupidity of the industries and stuff like that, where it's just a bunch of men trying to create a doll that's going to appeal to like women or children. But my criticism mainly for the movie is like I didn't know what to make of the movie until the end. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's brilliantly marketed that you have no idea that it's going to take a real serious tone, because I just thought it was going to be a light comedy.
Would you have preferred if it was just lighthearted and comedy all the way through?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, because at the same time, like, that's going to be what I'm being sold at. But what I really like now is, because it's always my criticism on trailers, is they tell you, like, everything about the movie. But when you watch the trailers, it's just a bunch of, like, random joyous moments. But there are some things about the movie I didn't like. Like, I could have done with less of Will Ferrell, like, honestly.
My only thing about the movie is that, so Will Ferrell... They get to the Century City building. All the jokes about Century City are literally so fucking hilarious. I could scream, especially as people who live in Los Angeles and know that Century City is pretty much just like the corporate buildings of the entertainment industry and nothing else. And they're being like, the gods at Century City is so fucking funny. But Will Ferrell and his team, other than the big gag of them all on the tandem bike, riding to Barbie Land, they don't do anything in Barbie Land. They just hide out and wait for... them to all solve it themselves, and I liked that they didn't really have too much interference in it, but I mean, Will Ferrell was funny in it, but most of the Mattel stuff didn't really need to be there, and I understand why it was there. It's a Mattel film. They wanted to have their film represented, and not in the worst way.
I don't think Barbies are gonna go off the shelves. I don't think
never.
Because even though we're trying to.
I went to Walmart for the first time in a while recently, and they have the biggest Barbie display I've ever seen right now.
But I don't think nothing's being bought. I don't think kids are into buying Barbie dolls.
I think now kids are going to be into buying Barbie dolls.
Maybe because of a movie and hey, buy some Mattel stock if anybody's listening to it. what else did I not like about the movie? I'm sure it's rooted in realness, but I hated like men and women fighting each other.
Oh my God, dude! Literally, I could not disagree with you more. The line where she says like, "Men hate women and women hate women, and that's the only thing that we can all agree on," hits so goddamn close to home.
Really?
Yes.
I just thought to myself, like, as a history major, there's been tons of women leaders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at the same time, like, men are also really fucking idiots. They've like destroyed the world too. So I'm not like, you think they're any better off? Like there's always these lines like, oh, if a woman ever became president, there'd be like nukes dropped. Guess what? Harry Truman dropped 2 of them. Like they're no good. But I just think like I don't want people to like, if you're a kid watching that, I don't want there to be impressions of like, yo, this is how you fuck with men. This is how you fuck with women. Like toxic masculinity, all these like Andrew Tate people, gotta be men. I'm like, no, you're more than that. You're more than a woman. Everybody is very multi-dimensional.
But I don't think it's setting children's expectations that that's like how the world should be. I think it's being honest with them and saying that that's how the world is.
A lot of the world, yeah, 100% it is. But I just to myself like, maybe they were just being real, and I was just being like optimist, be like maybe they had like this great line or just whatever it is, it could be like, yo, there could be a better way. Just like how I was like critical with like anything else in life. I'm like, let's hope. I hope.
Well, personally, as someone who's seen lots of movies about men with women not well represented, Oppenheimer, seeing a movie where like the men are the butt of the joke was incredible because that's never happened. So like it should exist because all. You don't
think men are like Anchorman? Like they're all idiots.
Well, yeah, but like.
They're the butt of the jokes.
Well, yeah, they're the butt of the jokes because they're, like, dumb. It's not because they're saying men are dumb. And this movie isn't saying men are dumb. If anything, like, this movie is actually, like, really, really interested in Ken, which I think is very interesting. It's, like, really, they want to know, like, about Ken and his feelings and, like, his journey. And that's, in a story about Barbie, in a story about a leading man, it would be so easy to push away the boyfriend or the girlfriend character. So the fact that it is so involved in the boyfriend character, I actually think is like completely opposite of what you're saying, is that it's actually including more of everybody than like isolating anybody.
Very true. I wish I can have a great rebuttal to that because this is where you're just right and you just admit you're wrong. But it was just like interesting to me that Ken, to me, like we're talking about Ken right now for a second.
Yeah.
I was just shocked that he kind of stole the show.
Okay. I'm like a little bit upset that everyone's saying that Ken stole the show, but like I can't disagree because Ryan Gosling is incredible in this movie. Every single time Ryan Gosling was on the screen, I laughed out loud.
I feel like he got the funner part.
He got the easier part, the more fun part.
But Margot Robbie had like the heart and soul of the entire. Like
Margot Robbie's performance is incredible in this film.
Like, can you imagine
if he gets nominated? I hope they both get nominated for Oscars. But if he gets nominated and not her, I think that will be the greatest upset of the year.
Well, that would be like straight up a new strike.
No, literally, like literally. But Ryan Gosling is. First of all, Ryan Gosling is phenomenal. Period. Ryan Gosling is also, unsurprisingly, phenomenal in this movie. There was, like, a thing where Greta was writing it, and she said, like, as we were writing it, we were like, well, obviously Ryan Gosling's gonna be Ken, right? And if he says no, like, we're just gonna have to make him, because, like, Ryan Gosling is our Ken. And she's right, like, he crushed it. He's the perfect amount of, like, a goofball, funny guy.
Every joke
lands.
And if you've seen him in serious roles, like, if you've seen... what's it called? Blade Runner 2049 or Drive. This is a great, like...
Talk about the range.
Yeah,
range.
Man, it's like, fuck, man.
He can scream, he can be angry, he can sing, he can dance, he can land a joke.
There's parts of the movie that I really do like. They're like, it gave, like, a lot of, like, moments that's all female-based and then, like, it's all male-based, too.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great equal balance. I just thought to myself, like, we're very fortunate to see these movies being made right now, us watching it, and at the same time, the recognition it's being given, the money it's been going, and it's also maybe will wake up the studio heads. Like, you have to really trust these directors sometimes, and the execs, the suits have to step away.
They fought so hard for this film. Like, it is incredible, like, to keep it the way it is. And I also wanted to say, like, I can't think of another female-driven IP story of this caliber. Can you?
I mean, there's like these like cheesy ones that they make. Like, I don't know, and I don't want to call cheesy ones. Like the Woman King. There's like Devil Wears Prada. There's the...
Okay, sure, but they're not as grand of scale as this. And I feel like studios don't do that because they're like, oh, like, where's the audience for, like, that kind of thing?
I mean, I agree with it because they had the whole Batwoman movie filmed, and they scrapped it. Like, Ezra Miller got to be a terrorist, and they allowed this movie, and this woman that probably kicked ass and put her heart and soul in that movie just got scrapped. But there are movies that, like, Wonder Woman, like Gal Gadot, like... I just can't imagine anybody else being Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, this just... Even, like, the movie The Arrival, which the main character is also a woman, too, and kills it. I mean, like, I just think there aren't more movies like this where they shine so bright that, like, they just take over, you know? And hopefully the studios see, like, look, you have a giant fucking audience, and you are not harnessing that.
Yeah, they made a movie about women, for women, directed by a woman, and it made more money than I think they could have ever imagined. And I think they need to take the hint. And
there are consumers of the other side. Like,
there have been 3 directors in the history of the Oscars that have ever won Best Director for a female, and I think there's only been like 5 or 6 that have ever been nominated. And most years, not even a single woman is even nominated or given the chance to make a movie of this scale. So I think if anything, Barbie is a wake-up call to the studios after all of this to like get their shit together. And
little movie trivia, George Lucas, Star Wars. You know he doesn't have an Oscar, right?
Yeah.
But his wife has an Oscar for editing.
That's incredible.
That's just like, fuck you.
I love that. I love that. And I love George Lucas and I love Star Wars. So shout out to George Lucas's wife. That's immaculate. You brought up Wonder Woman. Can we talk about the Zack Snyder joke and how when it played, I thought immediately of you?
I mean, it easily like we're such an easy target of like.
So, oh my God.
Yes.
Okay. So there's.
You know they've done it more than once. You know they've done it. This is gonna be a reoccurring thing, making fun of this.
The Snyder Cut, I believe it. It was incredible. So they do their whole thing. Barbie thinks about dying. Existential Barbie, incredible. Irrepressible thoughts of death Barbie, incredible. Cellulite Barbie, incredible. The big banner that is just like way too long that it's like, good luck on your journey to the real world to come back and make things normal and not get cellulite is so goddamn funny. And they come back, and all the Kens have brainwashed all the Barbies, and like the first thing Nobel Prize Barbie or Dr. Barbie, I don't remember which one she is, says like when she wakes up from the thing, is like, I felt like I was in a coma where I just really cared about Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I died. I was like, that is so fucking good. That is so good.
That's just like a great line. That's just like a line for like movie watchers to all sit back like, hey, let's not take ourselves too seriously. Dude, and just have a good laugh.
All the jokes aimed at the Kens were like so obvious and so spot on. Like, can you explain The Godfather to me? Dead. I am deceased. The over-explaining the Lou Reed at the regular play. Hilarious. The can I sing at you with my guitar? Mm-hmm. Did you have a favorite joke or one-liner from this film?
My favorite, there wasn't a joke, but there was just an image of Sylvester Stallone. You know Sylvester Rocky?
Yeah.
So there's that image of him that's probably like when he was like completely yoked on steroids from like Rocky 3 or Rocky 4 and in that white fur. And like that was the image of what man is.
Yeah.
For Sylvester Stallone. I wonder what Sylvester Stallone is thinking right now. Because he has like a unique renaissance in his career right now. But I don't think like all of a sudden he's brought up to the front page of like that image.
As the manly man. I mean, I think he knows he resonates that, and I think he's the perfect choice for that, too. But that entire montage of, like, what men is, horses,
I didn't get the horses.
Screaming. What? There was a horse cut in there.
I know, but I don't get, like, the men part with horses.
I just think that Ken doesn't know anything about the real world and whether they're run by men or if they're run by horses is really, really funny. Also, just all the horse like, I'm gonna go find a book about... Does he say horses or trucks?
I don't know.
And he gets a book about patriarchy and he gets a book about horses. And there's the brief cut when they come back to Barbie Land and the The Mount Rushmore heads of Barbies are then horses. Incredible. Mojo Dojo Casa House. Incredible. And then, like, towards the end where he's like, once I realized patriarchy wasn't about horses, I wasn't that interested anyway. God bless him. God bless him.
I love the part where they're all riding in with their horses.
Yes!
When they're imaginary horses.
During the battle, one of them has to stop and tend to his fake horse.
It's
so good.
You know, when you saw that part in the trailer, I did not anticipate that fight.
Oh,
I did not.
My God. Did you see... Okay, so they linked, or like they dropped part of I'm Just Ken before the movie came out. They like released a clip that was kind of cut into like a trailer of it. Yes. Did you watch that before seeing?
No.
So I watched it and I was like so excited for it, and I also thought that was going to be like the whole portion of what it was. And when it was that long fleshed out scene, specifically when they start doing like the grease dancing or whatever it is,
yes,
I jaw on the floor. Cinema.
They did. I mean, that was just like one of the best parts of the movie is just they threw in some grease. Everybody danced. Everybody loved it because everybody loves a great musical. And it just kind of reminded me of this movie. Kind of also reminded me of La La Land, where it was just like this upbeat, fun, but like a real story. And at the end, it got real. But the comedy, like all the one-liners everybody had were top notch. I could again deal with less Will Ferrell. Yeah. I think Will Ferrell always...
As funny as Will Ferrell is, and as funny as he was in this movie, I really don't think he played that important of a role.
I think he, like, ruined it. I just thought it was so silly and stupid that, like, it just shows you how dumb corporate leaders are. That, like, hey, let's all try to grab this girl, and they're all just running around like idiots.
I do really love that chase scene, though, where none of them are really have a goal of... The Charlie XCX song is playing.
Yes.
And they're all like not actually trying to grab her. They're just running at her in different directions. Is so funny.
No, I just think the one-liners that like how Barbie constantly just like rejects Ken. It's like
so good.
Imagine your entire life is just, and that's kind of like I guess
But it's Barbie.
Yes.
And Ken.
Not what was it like Barbie and Ken?
There is no just Ken.
And I think that's just one of like this. I don't think anybody ever thinks of that. And when that happens, like it really gets people to pay attention. Like in the Barbie world, it's only Barbie. Ken is the afterthought.
Where did the Ken sleep? Oh, I never really thought of that.
Or just like I'm Beach Ken.
My job is beach. It's not lifeguard. It's to stand confidently right here.
And that just tells you something about like society, like how men can just be identified as just.
Well, there's the great line towards the end where it says like, you're not just your girlfriend, you're not just Barbie, you're not just your Mojo Dojo Casa House, and he goes, beach? It's like, you're not even just beach, you're not even your job, like you're you. And I think honestly, like, granted I'm not speaking for all men and all things, but I think that the idea that like men use those things to like identify who they are is very real.
I mean, guys really sometimes just grab onto like a horrible ideology.
Yeah.
Like there's so many people that are just grabbing onto like an Andrew Tate and ideology, or like some other completely opposite side of like Andrew Tate, and just like, oh, this is how I'm gonna live my life. I'm like, you're everything. You're not just this one. And I think people are very scared to go out into the real world to figure. And I think Barbie's character does that. She really basic Barbie goes out
stereotypical Barbie,
stereotypical,
which I think is so great that they let them call her stereotypical Barbie.
Yeah. And she goes out to the real world and tries to figure out what life is. And she gets hurt. Mm-hmm. She cries. Like, when she cried, I cried. And
I was going to ask you if you cried in this movie.
And that moment where that scene where she's sitting next to that older lady. And she's like, I cried when she said, like, I think you're beautiful. And
she says, like, I know. Daggers.
Yeah, I know.
Daggers in the heart. And then I've looked up a lot about this movie because it's the Barbie movie. But that was, like, the one scene that Warner Brothers wanted to cut. And
what?
Because they were like,
that's one of the stronger scenes.
That's what I'm saying. And Greta said that, to me, this scene is the whole heart and soul of this movie. And if you take this scene out of the movie, I don't know why I'm making this movie. And I couldn't agree more, because when that was the first scene in the movie that, like, I was like, oh my God, this is about to be powerful.
I just straight up cried when I saw that. And it's like, it's really strong, like, because this is like what you would, like, the stereotype of, like, the hot Barbie girl. Because Margot Robbie was selected for Wolf of Wall Street to play her, like, the hot wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now here, like, a few years later, it's still that person. but she's sitting next to someone that has lived this amazing life and says like, you're beautiful. Because I think that says a testament to like, you know, you're not just like your aesthetics, but the life, the wisdom, everything you've experienced. You're beautiful because you're still here and you are who you are. And
even though Barbie is Barbie and she looks like Barbie, to Barbie, because she doesn't know about the real world and she thinks that what they have set in their world, it reflects on the real world. She doesn't understand that women are objectified, all the things about women. She just sees them who they are. So she sees this woman who's lived a long life, and she just says, the first thing she can think of is, oh my God, you're beautiful.
She's just like a canvas that's just like she's just learning. And you know, I did not see her like attack or respond like really in a negative way. She was just like a very open, like, I'm taking all of this in. Yeah. And just being very real with my feelings. When she finds that little girl and starts talking to her, and she's like, oh, you're my person. And then like the little girl gives it to her, and then she's like cries and like was really hurt. And it was like, I couldn't imagine what's that like. I mean, it kind of also speaks to like a lot of people, like I've been like at school, like I don't want to say bullied, but pretty much they were just going to kick my ass for some weird communication. And I can't imagine what it's like to be a kid now with social media and talking online.
I have to shout out my friend because he is insistent that those 4 girls are supposed to represent Bratz dolls. Oh. And I guess one of the Bratz dolls is named Sasha. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But he was like, get it? Because they're enemies, Barbie and Bratz? And I was like, I think it was like putting Barbie in her place for like what she actually means to young women and how like Barbie's not a true representation. And I think that scene in particular is like, they did all the ads where it's like, this movie is for people who love Barbie and people who hate Barbie, and you can't really have the Barbie argument unless you have the anti-Barbie argument. Mm-hmm. And I think it was delivered really, really well in that scene. So I just think that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, just the comedy was top notch. I can't, you know, the only issue I have with the comedy is when you watch in a movie theater and everyone laughs and they say that one line and you can't hear the second line, like the line.
But that's like a good thing, because when is the last time you've seen a movie that people have laughed so hard you can't see the last one? And I just think that plays to its rewatchability, because like I saw it a second time and I laughed at even more things I didn't see, and all the things is like, it's not a little chuckle to myself, like I laughed out loud.
No, this is like a movie that you're gonna rewatch constantly. If anything, can this be like the new Anchorman? You know, where everybody has the one-liners. Yeah. That like before memes existed, there was Anchorman, and you said the one-liners. I feel like this movie, whether it's Kenough or like whatever it is.
Am I Kenough?
Yes, like those. Like, those are such great...
Even through this conversation, I've quoted this movie, like, fucking 25 times already. But my favorite joke of the movie is literally when she's, like, devastated. And she's like, I'm not Barbie anymore. I'm ugly. And then it cuts to the Helen Mirren narration where she's like, note to the filmmakers, Margot Robbie is not the right person to cast to get this joke across. Hilarious.
Yep, very good.
Another standout for me is all of NSYNC's members are Alan's. Yes, even him. Incredible. I also just want to ask you about Alan, because Alan, every time it cut to Michael Cera just making a fucking face, I laughed. He didn't even have to do anything. I died.
It very much reminded me of, is it like Arrested Development?
Yes.
It's like, yeah, Michael Cera's character is just like George Michael.
he's just reacting, and he's so good in it.
And I think it's just like a play on who he is. You know, like how Nicolas Cage is Nicolas Cage, and how he is who he is. And he's like, there's shades of what's she called? Where the action scenes is Scott Pilgrim versus the Universe. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
So like the fight scenes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting because he's like very much that character. I don't want to typecast him. No, he's always
he's the number one typecast actor for that. Yeah. Like, he is the character actor of like awkward guy, and that's why like he is the perfect Alan.
And I'm hoping and I'm happy that he's embracing this. Collect your checks, bro. Don't look back.
Did you hear he's gonna be the new lead in the next Wes Anderson movie?
Shut up. Yeah. Perfect. He's perfect.
Michael Cera comeback.
No, it's just like how Josh Hartnett had a comeback.
Yeah.
This is a lot of people are having like this renaissance, and
Renaissance, if you will.
Renaissance. Because like, you know, people can do more than be like typecasted and put in quote unquote into a box.
Mm-hmm. But that being said, like, Michael Cera is playing in his box in this one, but he's playing it incredibly.
No, he did like, I didn't anticipate him having that much time in the movie. Like, I just thought he was just going to be like a cameo and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I thought that the Asian Ken was going to have way more. I thought he was gonna play like a more like
I kind of hate Simu Lee for no reason. He's one of those actors where like I have nothing, like he's never done anything particularly awful. He's never really been in a bad performance or like not enough to really be like, oh, you're a bad actor. And I'm not saying he's a bad actor. There's just something about Simu Lee that I'm like, I don't love you. And when I thought he was going to be like a big role in this, I was kind of happy that he was like pushed to the side. And again, that has nothing to do with the script or the filmmaking or his part. It's just like I have some weird beef against Simu Lee.
And I like the fact that he was like a small role too, because when you saw the trailer, I thought this trailer was going to be like a fight between Barbie and this dude like throughout the movie for
like I was kind of worried it was going to be just like a love triangle situation
yeah, it was
between
stupid,
her and the Kens.
Because they played it off. He's like, oh, I'm going to say hi to Barbie. It's like, Kenough? Like,
I'm going to beat you off, Ken.
Yeah. Ah, man.
I want to ask, my other favorite joke is the last joke of this movie. And I wanted to ask you about the ending and what you thought.
Brilliant.
Literally, when she's walking up and, like, you can assume, or, like, I assumed, I was like, is Barbie really just going to be a human and work for Mattel now? Like, I get it, like, sure. But no, she walks into that office and says, I'm here to see my gynecologist. And I was like, Greta Gerwig landed the fucking plane.
Yes.
Perfect tag ending. Like, could not have been better. Whole room erupted in applause.
Nobody knew what she was going in for. I knew it was like an appointment. I thought maybe she's going on her first date. You know what I mean? Maybe she's going for a job interview. Maybe...
No, she left Ken. She was not going in for her first date.
No, I get it. But it's just interesting to me, like, no one saw that. And that's why my original comment is, like, I don't think a lot of people, like, imagine you took, like, maybe an 11-year-old girl. And like, there's like, it's the last thing they heard is like, what's a gynecologist?
Well, they're gonna have that conversation anyway. So.
I understand that, but like, look, I'll always say like, there are sometimes families that are not ready to have that conversation.
Even better when the dads have to explain it to their son.
Yeah, I know. Just like when my dad had to explain some stuff to me, I'm like, stop. I'll just go figure anything. I'll go on the internet, look it up, YouTube. You just
say nothing to me.
You just be the last person that has to explain. I love you, Dad. You're the best dad ever. But like, it's just kind of like, there should be kind of ambassadors of certain and I think there should be more education on stuff like this. And like, it shouldn't be like a TV show or a movie. And I hope it creates a dialogue where people get off their phones and talk to their kids about real life. And if I'm not mistaken, statistically, gynecologists are like the least amount of doctors available. They're the least represented by women. I think there's a lot of men doctors where I feel like every gynecologist should be a woman. Yeah. Like, there should be a requirement.
Why are you a man in this field? It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. I agree. I think like how anybody should like understand like anything that's going on in the body is a woman. But it also talked to me like that part is like, we had moments in the movie where like, oh, we don't have genitals.
So good.
So I like,
she goes, we need some women's spirit, and goes to the construction workers, and she has to end it with, and I don't have a vagina and he doesn't have a penis, and they walk away.
And that's just like a very interesting comment to throw out there in a time where people are defining gender, what is a woman, what is a man, and can you just say like, oh, I am this, I am that, or like, can you just the part that also intrigued me is like, you know, then she's like, oh, you can think yourself into like becoming a woman or like become a woman, you know?
I wanted to bring that up because I wanted to talk about the more sentimental parts of this movie. And one of my best friends in the whole wide world, shout out you, Cameron, is a trans woman and sobbed through this movie. Like, sobbed through it because like, I also wanted to ask you what you really think this movie is about. And like, because for me, it's literally like, it's about mothers and daughters and that relationship. But I also just think it's about Barbie embodying the reason of like, you can truly be whatever you want to be, because that was what her original creation was for, and that's how she's supposed to be represented, even though like Barbie over the years has been blurred lines and, you know, they have the bimbo comment and all of the things. But what do you think this movie is about?
I think it's one, figuring out who you are, and even though you're born into this world saying like, oh, this is what you are, but it doesn't truly define yourself. Yeah. Now, at the same respect is, it's hard figuring out who you are. So you could be like a kid that like, when I was a kid, I thought I was like a superhero. I thought there was a moment I thought I was a dinosaur. But for me, like, it's always concerning to me. It's like, you don't know who you really are in these formative years. You know, you're going through a lot of emotions. And I always tell people, it's like, look, first of all, you live in America. Your First Amendment right is you can say be or do whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
The science behind that other stuff or the biology might not support you because, like, you know what? I wish I looked like Ken, but God gave me this, or like the universe or evolution brought me into this situation.
There's the line where it's like, you think the creator of Barbie really looks like Barbie? Like, no. Nobody looks like Barbie. That's why she's Barbie.
But it's the same thing as, like, I want people to, like, figure out how to love themselves, really importantly, and who you are at a certain, like, dude, Sev, like 15, pimply, awkward, socially, whatever it is. It took years to become this person, to even be like talking behind the mic. This person didn't happen overnight. But I always encourage people to, like, one, love yourself. It takes time to figure out who you are. Don't make a rush decision, because I know there's like a lot of talk of like kids like taking like hormone blockers and people having surgeries. It's your body. Do whatever you want, but just be very cautious. Do not make a decision that all of a sudden, when you turn at such an age, like maybe you turn 35, but like, why the F did I do that? And I talk about that same thing with people that do plastic surgery, that people maybe color their hair or get tattoos, piercings. I just tell people, like, take a second first.
But if that's you, Barbie, you go Barbie.
Yeah.
I want to also talk about the mother and daughter aspect of this movie. I wanted to know how you felt about, because we haven't mentioned America Ferrera yet.
And you know she was Ugly Betty, right? It's interesting that she got this role. And she hasn't been in a lot of movies.
She hasn't been in a lot of movies, and I'm really, really happy that she's in this movie, because I think she's incredible in this movie. And as much as Margot Robbie is the star and the co-star is Ryan Gosling, there's an argument you can make where she's the true protagonist of this film, at least the heart and soul of this film. And I don't know, I just wanted to ask you about America and what you thought of specifically her speech, because in my theater after the speech...
Applause.
Rapturous applause.
It is, because there's so many things that I can't even remember and repeat. It's like, oh, you have to be this and you have to be that and you can't be this. I can't. Forgive me, I don't know the line.
Yeah.
But it was like, it's like the most challenging thing in the world from her perspective, because again, I'm not a woman, to be a woman in this day and age, because you have to be perfect, you have to be sexy, but you also cannot be like too sexy. You have to be this and that. And I just feel like we're constantly putting people in like in a box, whereas in people, I think in the general, it's like, don't ever allow yourself to be placed in a box, because you're constantly growing, constantly changing, and the level of, don't allow society to dictate who you are. I think the only thing that I take is like, just be a good person, just be kind to people. That's really it. But do not allow society to put you in a box. And when you read about like everybody that's like a game changer that does this, is because they're extraordinary. And they're usually people that maybe come from a very difficult circumstance. Might come from trauma, might come from like therapy, might come from like a challenging environment. But like when she said that, I think she was speaking to like all the women in the world, all the young girls, be like, yo, fuck whatever the patriarchy social norms are. Like,
it's literally so spot on. And I feel like, again, not to quote Greta Gerwig in an interview about this, but she said something of like, when she gave that speech on set for the first day, like everybody on the crew cried, and not just the women, the men too, because they felt like the women didn't realize they were on these tying themselves into knots, and the men were like feeling for the women they knew in their lives that were like that. And I just think it is so spot on about society and about women and all the things. And like, I have the exact ending of the quote written here, and it's just, I'm so tired of watching myself and every single woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us, and all and if all of that is true for just a doll just representing women, I don't even know, because that's literally the burden of being a woman and being a Barbie. And it's so beautiful that like it's so... Greta Gerwig has now written the 2 best monologues I've ever heard about women in the last 10 years. The Little Women, not only the Florence Pugh speech where she talks about marriage being an economic proposition, and the ending about Joe being like, women are more than just love. They want to be loved. They're not just side pieces. And where she ends it with just like, but I'm so lonely. And then this speech, it is like, nobody can capture it. And to me, like, Greta Gerwig is the only person who's captured like the woman experience.
And I hope,
film.
and you know what, I'll say this, I bet you there's a person that's even better than her, and I hope that
she inspires her.
Yes, to anybody out there, girl or boy, whatever you decide to be. And I always voice this thing: if you live in America, your First Amendment right is you can say whatever you want.
Yeah.
But you also have to accept the repercussions of what you say. But you have that ability to completely shatter things with just a line or inspire tons of people.
Yeah.
And I hope people really look at it that way. And just don't get don't get too offended. Like, really take a moment, take out yourself from your body perspective, and just feel like how that person might be going through. And that applies to like some person that's an immigrant, that gonna be someone that's just like, there's your janitor at work. God knows the story that like this person had to endure to become where they are now. There are people that come to this country that are like literally taxi drivers or Uber drivers, but back home they're a freaking like professor or a doctor, and the challenges, men and women.
And exactly to that point, that brings the one last direct quote from the movie I'm going to share to you, that this is the one that stabbed me in the heart the most, was not the speech. It was, "We mothers stand still so our daughters can look back and see how far we've come." Dagger straight through the heart. Like, are you kidding me? Sobs, tears, everybody in the movie theater. Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, this movie makes you cry too many times, like in good ways.
It makes you laugh so many times and cry so many times.
I mean, I just think to myself, like, it's not my criticism of this movie. I just feel like people are not ready for this, like, amazing message that this movie. And when you walk into it, like, being sold something else, you buy a ticket, you think you're going to walk into Grease, or you're going to be walking to some type of Anchorman movie, where it's really, like, a cultural conversation, whatever you want to gender life, but like, I just want people to have the opportunity to have a respectful conversation and not attack each other, because what we talk about today might be the norm or acceptable, but like in 200 years we might seem like barbarians, and like we're like, how did those idiots like confine people? But maybe it's the opposite. Maybe in the future they think to myself, like, no, it had to be conformed. I don't know what's right and wrong, but it's just that I always want people to have the freedom to express themselves, be whatever the fuck you want, especially when we live here and we pay so many taxes.
Oh my God, yeah.
And like the rent is still damn high. But in the opportunities to succeed, I'm a dude. I can't imagine what it's like to be a woman. But like
literally this whole movie is just filled with things like early in the movie, the Barbies are getting their awards, and they don't say thank you. They say like, I worked hard for this and I deserve it. And it's like, oh my God, like, are you kidding? Nobody would ever be like, because the immediate reaction is, oh my God, thank you for this honor. Like, thank you for choosing me for this. It's like, no, the Barbies stand up there and they all just nod along. Like, yes, you did work so hard for this and you did deserve this.
It reminds me of that moment. Have you ever seen when Snoop Dogg wins his star in Hollywood? He's like, I want to thank myself for working so hard. But that's the true thing. Like, when people win these Oscars and stuff like that, it's like, I want to thank my mom, my agent, but like, how about you take a second and you just like say like, I fucking worked hard. I busted my ass. I sacrificed A, B, and C for this. Like, I get it. There's a moment to be humble, but it's also a moment to like remind people. It's like, I didn't roll out of bed and win this award. The same way like Greta is like gonna get whatever movie she wants, or gonna be able to.
Did you hear what she's doing next?
I heard, but I don't remember.
Chronicles of Narnia.
Really? She's going to do her take on that?
She's going to do she's signed a 2-film deal, unfortunately, with Netflix, but I think they're going to do a cinematic run of 2 films of Chronicles. They haven't said if they're going to like remake Lion Witch of the Wardrobe, if they're doing other books of it, but it's like 2 Narnia films are next coming from Greta Gerwig. And I'm going to tell you, I have the exact same reaction I have about Barbie. I have no idea what that's going to be. I'm so goddamn excited.
My only concern is, when it goes to Netflix, she probably got her money.
Well, they've had a partnership with Netflix because like her partner did Marriage Story, which was a Netflix film, and then their last film that he did, White Noise, where she starred in it, was also for Netflix. So like they have like oh my God, dude.
Yeah, it's all
dude. She's an actress first, and then a filmmaker.
But like,
you should see Frances Ha. You should see 20th Century Women.
Okay.
And you should see White Noise.
Okay. She wasn't in Marriage Story?
She was not in Marriage Story.
Okay.
But Adam Driver is, and Adam Driver is also in those in Frances Ha and
interesting.
White Noise.
Okay. I'm just very concerned when people go to Netflix because I always feel like the director, whoever it is going to get tons of money, but it's not going to do anything for cinema. And as great as streaming is, we have to forget, like, if it wasn't for cinema, we would not have movies. We would not have these conversations. And that's always going to be a concern to me when things go on streaming.
I'm with you. I don't like the straight to streaming model at all because like I said, I went to see Oppenheimer. I bought a ticket a month in advance to see the 70 millimeter IMAX. Like
a part of me wishes that streaming would cost like $200 a month. That like people can't afford to pay that money to stream, where there's much more appreciation to go to cinema and the whole experience of it.
Well, it's interesting because studios aren't allowed to own movie theaters because they felt that was a monopoly, and so their way around it was for them to get their own streaming services and then just completely cut out the rest of the industry. But now they're all crumbling because they don't realize that the streaming model is not...
Well, they fucked up because they keep producing trash content. What's it called?
It's not profitable.
Straight what's it called? Secret Invasion. Like Marvel is really... Disney's like completely like fucked. And on top of that, you have this writers... actor strike. Like there's got to be a point, there has to be a happy medium. This is kind of like when I always say, like, people invent something and don't realize what it's going to destroy and the implications of society, jobs, like livelihood, like income, royalties. Like you create something, but you don't think it's gonna. It seems so great and like unfazing, but then when everybody and their mom gets a streaming business and they tank and they don't do terrible, and those people lay off people, whether it's IT people or writers, or there's like a TV show that everyone's like, oh, it's gonna be great, but then it fucks up, and it's not fair because sometimes people say, like, if they give you a fat check, like Gal Gadot's doing this movie on Netflix, I'm pretty sure they gave her a fat check. Yeah. But it's probably gonna be straight trash.
Definitely gonna be straight trash. Name, like, I can't, like, Netflix is so fucked up, especially with just make good movies. Like, I don't understand. Just make good movies. Make 3 less movies a year and make the other ones you put out good. It is really not that difficult.
Or just make less movies. Make, like, cinematic, like, events. Yes. And let people, like, if you told me Netflix...
Streaming should be the place where the independent movies that can't afford to have a big theatrical distribution go to. It shouldn't be... the opposite. It shouldn't just replace the cinematic experience. Such a good idea.
I didn't think of that way. Or I just thought to myself, it's like, okay, if you're a parent and you got like 4 kids and you want to go to... I get it. Like, you can't afford like taking... Well, it's not even paying. The whole operation of taking like a bunch of kids to watch a movie is like expensive. It's not expensive. It's like, imagine you paid $150, you bought your popcorn, you bought your tickets, your kid starts crying, throws a tantrum, ruins the entire experience for the entire audience. Yeah. And, like, you just got to be like, exit out. Poor mom and dad, or whoever it is, guardian, parent, whatever is in that situation. I'm like, look, if you told me right now that I can watch the Flash on Netflix the same day instead of going to movies, I'd pay that $5 right there and just watch that movie.
Well, that's the other thing. I have 6 streaming services, and every single time I'm like, I want to rewatch this particular film. Yes. I look up all 6 streaming services that I have, and then I end up paying $6 to rent it. I'm back to buying Blu-rays, dog. I'm literally back to physical media because if it's a movie that I love, I'd rather just have a hard copy of it and watch it as many times. And that gives money to the filmmakers.
I agree. And at the same time, when you get that DVD content, there's commentary.
Bonus features, commentary. Bonus feature,
like deleted scenes or stuff like that. Now they put it on YouTube and like there's this weird passive income that comes from there. But there's like...
And on the streaming service, it ruins the quality. Like, it is not streaming at the highest possible quality.
I get it. Nobody wants to go put in a DVD inside and just want to push the
button. I do.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's great that like that exists, but I think all of this is a very big turning point where with Oppenheimer and Barbie, original movies, giving directors an opportunity, defining roles, defining real social conversations on like what really is happening in life and how it can just generate money. Yeah. And I think people want to go back to moments of like excitement. Like they want to go back to like camping out for a movie. They want to dress up and watch something that the X-Men movies come out. People are going to... I hope people take and learn. Just learn what Barbie did. The amazing marketing team.
Now that you brought it back to Oppenheimer in the studios and everything, I think another thing that needs to be said from this movie is both Oppenheimer and Barbie made very conscious decisions to not use computer-generated effects.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Oppenheimer, like he said, I'm not using it for the bomb. I don't know if there was any in, like...
No.
none in the film at all for Christopher Nolan.
He straight up said nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. So Barbie, obviously, there's a little like there's the twinkle and everything, but she made a practical set with old school backdrops on a sound stage, and like the most mystical fantasy parts of the movie, which are the boat and the spaceship and the traveling to the real world. Those she made like she used old school silent film era tricks to make like rotating backdrops, and they look. Both these films, Barbie and Oppenheimer, look gorgeous. And like all the rest of the studio garbage that they're cutting corners with, and they're not putting their time in, they're not putting the love in, and they have these, not to hit the Flash, but watch the Flash running and then watch Barbie travel to the real world. And there's a very clear difference about what's happening here.
And people are way more happy with Barbie going into the real world. It's much more presented like we enjoy.
Because it looks incredible.
Yes, and people loved something different. We're tired of that. And one of the, I don't know if you want to say the real MVP, but the production people, the set people that made that entire Barbie land, amazing.
Oh my god, they are gonna they got a sweep for the production design Oscars. I need a Barbie sweep in the design
I
costume
hope they
category.
Do. And if you wanted to make like a pop-up event, and if you made like
there's been so many.
I've never went to any of them, but like they made a Mario World in Universal Studios.
Yeah,
I'm like, you can create a Barbie world.
The Century City Mall right now is like covered in pink food and pink Barbie boxes.
I didn't get to experience that.
Oh my god, dude. Literally, Barbie had more collaborations with everything than anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, you had the musicians, you had like food. I mean, it just kind of sucks that it's kind of like geared towards mainly like LA. I don't know if it's happening in like smaller cities.
No, we have the benefit of living in LA and getting all the
but we also
benefits.
have to pay the price for it too.
Yeah. We're getting what we paid for at least, but I do want the rest of the nation to have that experience. But then again, even just the minimal thing of everybody wearing pink to the movie theater is making the movie theater feel like a Barbie pop-up.
I just want people to realize that if you put in some effort and stop just phoning it in, you can have really good movies. And you know what? If they fail, let them fucking fail.
Yeah.
Let them learn from it. Because we have not learned anything from just like all these like Marvel, Netflix movies that have just come in and just phoning in and just like, oh, people are dumb. They're just going to watch
these. And they're not changing things because they realize people are going to go buy a ticket anyway because like they have to see the new Marvel movie. But it's like...
but it's dropped down significantly.
So much.
Well, the only thing that's like, Fast X has made like $700 million. Yeah. But it only like made like $100 million.
Oh, that's a worldwide.
Yeah, but that's the thing too. That's the reason why they're making those movies. Because people just want some of these like cheesy action movies, and there's an audience for that.
Yeah.
Globally, but like I think the U.S. markets are like, yo, Diesel, we're like, no, we're done. Like we're not gonna watch it again. You might sell a bunch of movies like globally, but it's interesting to see that Fast X, and Death Reckoning were movies that had messages of like family, where Oppenheimer had movies of like the individual and personal growth and the evolution of like a person. It was just kind of interesting to me. I don't know if it really makes sense, but did you see any of that?
In what?
Oppenheimer.
Oh,
and
yeah,
Barbie,
yeah.
But like you haven't seen Death Reckoning, right?
No.
But you have not seen Fast X either.
No.
Anyways.
But I know the family's everything Vin Diesel situation is like what Fast X is about, or Fast and the Furious is about.
It's just, oh man. Hopefully happy endings for everybody. Not so much in Oppenheimer's world.
No, not as much in poor Oppie.
There's less hope. There's hope. There's less hope.
That bomb went off and his world shattered from there.
Ah, man. It's nuts. I don't know. But we're just fortunate that this is the world we're living in, that like honestly it's like it was a craze. I hope people talk about this. I hope there's a documentary that's going to be written about this moment in time.
I'd watch the hell out of that. I doubt it, but I'd watch if anything, this should be the fact to studios that they can't recreate this because this was a once in a lifetime opportunity. But they need to make movies an event again. They need to make movies for more audiences. I think they can learn a lot from this situation. And what a time to see film.
And I agree. And I hope they really start waking up and like not revealing what the movies are about. And Barbie did that. And it wasn't what you expected, but it was everything that you secretly wanted.
Yes. It exceeded expectations.
100%.
So thumbs up or thumbs down on Barbie?
Bro, I think we're thumbs up on
Barbie.
Both movies were thumbs up.
God bless Greta Gerwig.
Good night, everybody.